just wants to massacre him.
Go on out there and kill them.
Wipe them out. All of them. To the very last man. Violence. Brutality.
Trick-or-treaters are all dead. Isn't it beautiful? Take a walk in the cemetery. Get eaten up by cannibals.
Celebrate Halloween. Love and kisses, Remy, baby.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Hey, ball buster, Bates here with your friend and mine, Ray Mungus, and we are podcasting before midnight on episode 53, Way of Life Live. What is going on, Mungus?
Not too much, man. Not too much. 53, huh?
I know every week, obviously it goes up by one, but it's still like, wow, what the fuck? Do we really do this many?
I was impressed when we had like 10 hours worth of content, and now I'm like, oh man, nobody's gonna want to listen to us talk that long.
No, they're gonna listen and they're gonna like it.
I'm just trying to imagine being stuck on like some deserted island of some sort with 53 episodes of this podcast, and I don't know if I'd be able to hang with that. At least listening to myself.
Yeah, I would probably neck myself.
Yeah. I'd probably like impale myself some sort or hit myself with a coconut one too many times over.
Yeah, try to become shark food.
Pretty much. So how's everything on your end, man?
Oh, peachy. Doing
sounds like it.
Doing baby shopping. So, actually, I really need to put some order in for a couple of things. Car seats and strollers and all that good baby stuff.
Nice. I've been doing something very similar, kid shopping for myself. I've been buying toys for myself. I just happened to get my hands on those GameStop exclusive Ninja Turtle figures, and I'm happy. I'm glad I finally got them. Very big Ninja Turtle fan growing up, and yeah, it's definitely cool. They're very rare to come by these days.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, well, I'm sort of doing the same thing. It's like, all right, what do we got here? Okay, baby seat. All right, gonna order that. What do we got here? Ant-Man figure for daddy. Yep.
One for you, one for me.
I'm not even kidding. That is exactly how it's going right now.
Hey, you know what? You could always chalk it up as that's the stuff they're going to be passing down to them. So, you could get. I mean, it's like a little bit of a loophole, but I think you could get away with it.
Well, I was actually discussing that. I was doing an unboxing stream on my channel on Monday because I got my Sideshow and Iron Horse collaboration Infinity War Thanos diorama. So I was unboxing that thing, and I was actually saying the exact same thing on stream. How, you know, how I spend quite a bit of money on, you know, a lot of these quality pieces. I really don't buy, you know, the more accessible pieces anymore. You know, again, nothing against the accessible pieces and the cheaper pieces. I love them, and most of them are actually really well done and very high quality stuff. But I just find a stronger connection to some of the more expensive and like extremely detailed and rare and limited pieces. And I'm like, you know, it is a lot of money spent, but one day, you know, this collection will be passed down, hopefully, to a child of mine who will appreciate and enjoy it as much as I do. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I can certainly respect that, and you know, I get where you're coming from with the bigger pieces, simply because they're almost more adult. You know, no kid's gonna run out and buy a $400 Thanos statue. Not one that is on our level financially, at least. But you know, it's really cool. It's like almost the next plateau of collecting. You go from something accessible, something a little bit stronger in between, and then you go to that higher level. I don't find myself going to that higher level, one, because I'm dirt poor, and two, because I'm dirt poor, usually when my higher level statues and collectibles, that's where my eyes go to first when it comes to selling something off. And it's like, ooh, I could make a quick $500 off that. I'm doing it. And you know, it kind of diminishes the whole idea of collecting in general, but you know, it is what it is. I'm definitely not partying with my turtles, though. That's one thing for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've actually always been a pretty big Turtles fan too, man. I remember growing up with the you know, TV show and the you know, first two movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they were big. You know, just they were a big part of our childhood back in the '90s, man. I always loved them. And you know, we used to go to Pizza Hut a lot when I was a kid, and Turtles and Pizza Hut, they had like this fucking I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, like collaboration. Like everything Pizza Hut was Turtles related, and everything Turtles related had Pizza Hut with it. You know, like there were Pizza Hut ads in some of the NES Turtles games. So
yes. It's just really weird. You would think Domino's would have jumped on that because they were in the movie. That's where Michelangelo orders from, if I recall correctly. But yeah, no, I was very fond of the Turtles growing up myself. Problem is not to deviate too far into this whole thing, but like NICA and GameStop dropped the ball big time and didn't anticipate the high demand for these things. And then you add scalpers to the mix, and you have yourself quite a problem with these four figures going for 200 plus when they retail at, I think, 90. So it's definitely an ugly situation. I lucked out, and they're sitting right next to me, about to be put away once I get my new shelf situated.
Yeah. Definitely. You know, and it's funny that we're talking about this. I'm actually going to go ahead and drop this really cool link in the chat for that part 3 mask that I showed you the other day. Remember in chat?
Yes, absolutely. Jump on that.
So, guys, check out the link I just dropped. That is a Friday the 13th part 3 mask. Now, it's not the iconic mask that we're all used to. Back in 1982, there was a novelization of Friday the 13th Part 3, and there was the cover art for this novelization for the book was a way different mask than we ever saw in any of the movies. And this artist and mask creator, Crash Cunningham and Crash Creations, he has, you know, replicated this mask, and I think it's just gorgeous. it's definitely a piece that I would really consider picking up. I think it is menacing looking. Now, I don't think it's as menacing as the mask that we ultimately got, but I think this is just a really cool piece of unique Friday the 13th history in a way. And once it goes on sale, I don't know when it's supposed to go on sale. I don't think it's on sale yet. I'm not seeing it anywhere on his site. But once it goes on sale, I mean, we're probably going to be about $120 to $160 mask. It might be more, but that's typically where this guy's masks price points are, which is pretty good. So I would definitely consider picking that up because that is a really cool, unique piece, and I think it would look pretty cool next to my real Part 3 mask.
Yeah, no doubt. And the cool thing I like about it is the fact that it's almost a forgotten piece of history. It's something that people don't think about. If you go and see a generic Friday the 13th mask collector at a horror convention or one of the websites or what have you, you don't ever see this mask. Like I've seen it before, but I've never seen it replicated. I've never seen a big buzz surrounding it. And it was really cool that they took and found this, very one-off thing and turned it into a reality. And the Friday the 13th community is kind of buzzing about it, which is awesome. Definitely check out his website, crashcreations.com. He has great quality items. He's got some posters for sale. And I've been following him on Facebook for a few years now. And he just does phenomenal work, so I highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I can't find anything about a release date, but hopefully soon. Hopefully we get some information soon. Hopefully he, obviously this gets released. I mean, maybe it doesn't, but I hope it does.
Yeah, same here. I was looking at that mask, and what first came to mind, aside from holy shit, that was awesome. It's very similarly done to the humongous mask from Mad Max. And I was like, I should talk to this guy and get something done for my namesake here.
Yeah. I'm sure he would take that on.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's definitely talented enough. So it was definitely a little thought that crossed my mind. I might have to do that.
All right. So before we go ahead, hop into news, it's a very news-heavy episode. We have a bit of sad news to cover, but it seems like every week, we're losing someone, someone iconic in the world of horror. And last week we lost Beverly Owen, who all will remember as the first Marilyn Munster. I think she was only on the first season.
Yeah, the first 13 episodes.
Yeah, I actually just watched it. It was a really, really good, older, but a really good Munsters documentary. And they focused a lot on the Marilyn character and both actresses that played her. But she was definitely super iconic and a unique presence on that show that everybody loves them. Remember, I mean, all the characters were like that. They were all just super fondly remember. And at this point, we really don't have much left from that show aside from Butch Patrick.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a shame. Time keeps on going, and you don't realize how quickly it goes before it's gone. It's just, one thing that kind of put me on that thought process today was as it's unrelated to the passing of Beverly Owen, but 23 years has passed between now and the Pokemon release. I know they're completely unrelated, but it feels like just happened. That game had just kind of came out, and not a single second passed. It felt like just yesterday, and then you sort of had that sort of mentality with the stars of the old. You think the actor or actress that's playing somebody on the television show is just fine and dandy, and before you know it, they're in their 90s and on the way out. And it's absolutely a shame, to see the characters that you grew up with because maybe like your father or mother got you into a television show and they grew up with it. And it just sucks that they're gone, like they've reached their limit and that's the end of that.
Yeah, it's rough, but
Yeah, for sure.
These people, a lot of them hang around for a while. I mean, Al Lewis hung in there for a while. Sadly we lost Fred Gwynn pretty young for the most part, and but Al Lewis hung around for a while. Man, he hung around. you gotta listen to like stories of like older Al Lewis. Man, he loved the grandpa character so much. He embraced that character, even in like the very last couple years of his life. He loved it. He loved dressing up. He loved going to conventions and meeting fans. But what's funny is the grandpa Munster outside of all that stuff. He had a restaurant in New York. I don't know if it was down. I think it was somewhere down in the Village, and everyone who talks about that restaurant all talk about like they all say the same things about Al. How he was always there, and he always had like he always had a cigar hanging from his mouth, and he was always just so bubbly and cheerful. It's like that. That's really great. Stories, about these actors and these characters that you want to hear. So hopefully, in due time we'll hear some stories about Beverly Owen. I can only imagine that she's the same way.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, another name we lost, not as honestly impactful in my opinion, but still sort of a recognizable face, is Charles Craig, which you may or may not remember. He had a very small, I don't know, maybe about 30 seconds to 60-second broadcasting part on the original Night of the Living Dead. So I can't think off the top of my head anything else he was in that I would recognize him.
No, he didn't do a lot of acting, but he was excuse me, he was the actual Vietnam veteran and an actual broadcaster that George Romero hired for the role so that he could kind of have an authentic sort of vibe for a news. So like, he wanted to make an experience that, was very true to what would happen in the case, the undead were rising from the grave. He wanted a legitimacy to it. So he hired an actual broadcaster, which I thought was pretty cool. He didn't go on to do much else, but I think he's still important in the sense that he was kind of the glue that tied the story of what was going on within the House of Night of the Living Dead and the outside world, because they didn't have a lot of money. This movie was a very low budget movie, and frankly, majority of what was happening outside of that small little house, had to be told via exposition or very small scenes with a handful of zombies. So to have this guy tell the story of what's happening far beyond, it was kind of the thing that really opened up the world to the world that, this little house and these characters existed in. And I know his role wasn't that big or that impactful to like a horror genre, but I still feel that he was very important to the movie itself. So, it's small name, but he's still going to be missed, and I'm glad that he's captured on Night of the Living Dead, in the capacity that he was.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the times, you see that, like you'll see still shots and pictures from the movie, and a picture of his face on the TV screen is always one of those pictures I always remember seeing. It's just random. I don't know why.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's just that one thing, because I think when you're watching the original movie, you are going along with the characters of like what's going on in this world, how is this stuff happening, and I think that guy is the guy that pretty much gives you somewhat of a reasoning of what's going on. You don't really fully explain what's happening, but he helps a little bit in that regard. I actually used a sound bit of him in one of my short films to also tell that sort of story of what's going on outside of the the world that my character existed in. So, nice little throwback. And thankfully, it was public domain, so I could get away with it.
So to stay on topic of Night of the Living Dead, on Friday we did a live commentary of the 1990 remake. Excuse me. Had to sneeze. That was actually a lot of fun. Our buddy Stefan joined us again from Sweden, which is always a pleasure. He stays up to the wee ends of the night or early beginnings of the morning. He's usually up to about 5 o'clock in the morning doing these live commentaries with us, but he seems to really enjoy it just as much as we do. It was a lot of fun. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Just a really awesome movie all around, and just one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was really fun to revisit. It's been a few years since I checked it out, and God, it has aged so well. All three of us were really surprised by how impactful the film was, and how the changes that they made to it were just tremendous. So it was really very cool to walk down that lane again, and also to have our buddy Stefan back on the show with us after doing the commentary with us in December. So we hope to have him on the show, quite a bit more. So we shall see how things happen. We don't have a date yet, but we have a movie picked out for the next live commentary, and it is a doozy. It's one that you very much likely haven't seen, and it's one that we've probably seen way too many times. So we gotta kind of hammer out the details of when we're going to be doing that. But I believe the trio is going to be back in form, and we're going to be watching a cool, grisly, weird, funky movie. I can't even describe it. But we're gonna get our boogie on.
Oh yeah, we are definitely gonna get our boogie on. It's one of our favorite movies, and I know we say that about every movie we do on this live commentary, but this one ranks right up there with Return of the Living Dead and I Drink Your Blood. It's one of our favorite movies to watch. We've watched it more times than we can count, and it just gets better and better and better every time we watch it. I feel like this movie is just forgotten in time. It's not talked about as much anymore, and that's a shame because I feel it's actually superior. It's a spiritual sequel to a movie that gets way more praise and way more recognition, and I feel it's actually a superior movie to that. Maybe next week we'll drop what we're watching. We'll reveal it.
I think we could do that next week. Give them a reason to tune in again.
So we have the movie. I can't wait. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and it's going to be a good one. So tune in next week to find out which movie is next up on our live commentary series. All right, so enough of that nonsense. Let's go ahead and jump right into some horror news. All right, Twilight. Catherine Hardwicke will direct the CW's The Lost Boys pilot, and apparently some details have dropped on the show, right?
Indeed. Before we get in on the details, what a twist!
What a twist!
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't really believe my eyes when I opened up Variety, or no, Deadline, I think, reported it originally, and they said the Twilight heiress was going to be coming in and doing this kind of reimagining reboot of sorts. And I don't know, man. I think we've been sitting on this news for about a week now, and I still don't know really what to make of it or how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. What do you want me to say here? I mean, I could sit here and shit on Twilight like every other, horror fanboy. But at that point, it's just like, all right, stop. Let's not kick something while it's already down, and that's been down for years now.
Sure.
Do I think this person knows vampires? Maybe. Maybe, the whole Twilight thing was sort of like their escape from the vampires that we're all used to. So, if you sit there and you try to rationalize this, you can come up with some things. I won't say that this is like a death sentence for the show. That's silly. There's obviously going to be some talent and some skill, and at least some experience behind this, behind the show. And experience is always good. You want experience, and sometimes it doesn't even matter where the experience comes from. You're trying to revive a movie that is beloved by fans as a TV series, and we're talking. What year was The Lost Boys? Was that 86?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. It's been so long.
I mean, we're talking about nearly a 35-year-old movie being revived as a TV series. Okay, so let's not grab our pitchforks and torches just yet. I can understand why most fans would, but I think give her a shot. It could work. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, what can we do about it? We're just fans.
What are we going to lose? You know what I mean? Like, we already have The Lost Boys, a handful of sequels that you may or may not like.
Comics. And
some comic books, some action figures. You've already got The Lost Boys that you grew up with, and it's not going anywhere. In regards to, like, Catherine Hardwicke, excuse me, I don't think it's a death sentence like you said. I personally went on a quest many years ago to watch a bunch of the Twilight movies, and excuse me, it was simply because I didn't want to bash the movies without any sort of like backbone toward it. I want to have legitimate reasons as to why I didn't like them or why I thought they were acceptable. I've seen a handful of them. The first one I thought was probably the best directed, which obviously she had the reins on that one. But at the same time, it was still a story about sparkly vampires and romance and all that, all of which is within the realm of vampire mythology. So, it's here nor there. But one thing that a lot of horror fans need to realize is that when she went in to direct Twilight, she wasn't given the Lost Boys script. She was given the novelization of the movie, or the novel rather, and that was her blueprint. And I think she followed it, competently. So what's to say that she couldn't follow this same sort of path with this series? And I think her dipping her feet into the water of the whole teen romance thing and, that sort of thing, it's going to add exactly the right amount of what the CW shows have, within it. Like, if you've seen any of those, they all have some sort of romantic angle to them, and I think she'll be able to really capture that decently.
Yeah, I mean, like, imagine, you're going into a meeting for, Twilight, and you don't know anything about the movie, but they're looking at you to direct it, and then you come in and maybe they go, "So you ever seen or heard of Underworld?" Maybe Catherine was like, "Yeah, Underworld. It's got vampires and it's got werewolves. That's pretty cool." They were probably like, "Yeah, well, here's the script for Twilight. It's like Underworld, but sexy, and for tweens. Go make this movie." So, it was a pretty big budget movie, and obviously it had a fan base behind it because of the books. Most directors not going to turn that down. I'm sorry. Whether it is it doesn't matter. There's a following behind that, and there's a buzz with it. A competent director will not turn that down. Whether or not you like the movie or not is irrelevant to the point. So let us not attack this choice. I would say rather embrace it for the moment. Again, this is experience, and I think it's a good kind of experience, because while that was more of a big budget film with all kinds of buzz and lots of stuff behind it, this is more low key and a different world, and she'll be able to look at this show as she's directing it in a completely different angle, in a completely different way than what she did on the set of Twilight. So just keep that in mind. Go into this with an open mind.
Well said, man. Just to add a small bit onto that, the details that we did find out was that this show is going to kind of be like a spiritual remake of the movie, which was not their original plan. They had originally planned on having a original story that kind of went through the history, via like in decades, leading up to the movie, but at the same time existing within the world of the films. This one kind of looks to be going in the direction of retelling the movie and then building off of that sort of platform and going from there. So we'll have to see how things go. I usually don't like when they retell a movie because I'm continuously comparing, from show to film medium. But hey, you never know. This is just the basic blueprint right now. It could be something far different once it actually goes to pilot.
Exactly. And the show could drastically change after the pilot.
Exactly. I think that's where those type of shows like blossom. Once you get past what you're already familiar with and you're not comparing, that's when you really open up to the show and you're just like, okay, wow, this is stuff that I never really thought possible, or story, that we would have never gotten otherwise. So I think it's smart, and we'll see how it goes.
Right on. So moving on, finally got our first official trailer and look at the reboot for the Twilight Zone. I actually just watched this trailer right before we went live, and it's a trailer. It's basically like a little sizzle reel of clips. Just gives you an idea of some of the names and actors and actresses you can expect in these episodes. Obviously, there's a lot of familiar faces and names. Some I like, some I really don't like. The overall look of the show, honestly, I won't say I hate it, but it did look, and again, I can't go too deep into it because it was just a sizzle reel, like I said. But the show did look a little too overproduced. It looked a little.
I was gonna say that. It looks too polished.
Yeah, a little too clean, a little too dainty. Now that could work in its favor, until you see an episode or two and actually see how the atmosphere is in the show. You don't know if that particular look is going to go against the show or work in its favor. Just initial thoughts and reactions is it's not really working. But again, I can't really dive into that until I see at least one episode. But yeah, that's what I initially thought. That was my first thought.
No, I definitely see what you're saying. I originally looked at it and I was like, okay, this is definitely a way too polished. And I kind of long for the moment where one of these studios grows a pair of balls and says, you know what, the original stood out because of stood out and stood the test of time because of the look of it. The black and white look was iconic, and it had that just otherworldly vibe to it, as you watched each episode, regardless of when you watched it, whether you watched it when it first aired or in 2019. It stands out from so many other TV shows, even though they probably just didn't have the capabilities to film in color, or it was too expensive, or whatever. That's here nor there. Point is the look of it always had a very unique vibe to it, and it really made the show something more than it needed to be. But as far as the trailer went, I kind of removed that thought process from my mind and kind of tried to get a vibe for what I was watching. Very difficult, because the trailer is essentially a trailer for an anthology series, and you're getting just quick flashes of little bits of scenes from each of the stories. I'm hearing rumors that they're going to be remaking a few of the episodes from the original series. They're going to be having original episodes 2, and even ones that connect to ones from the past, like little Easter eggs and things like that. And as you watch the trailer, you see a few of the more iconic set pieces from the original, like the gremlin thing that was on the plane's wing. You see that like washed up along the beach, or that devil coin box. I forget what it's called, but you see that in the episode. And where the nostalgia tingles really kick in is when you start hearing the iconic music starting to come through in the score, and that's what really brings it home for me. Yeah, regardless, like Bates just said, you're not going to really have any understanding or any real feel of the show till you watch it. So, I'm very optimistic because I love the series, but all the same, it's still just a little sizzle reel that you can't really do much with. So, for me, April 1st can't get here soon enough. Got a few more months, and then we'll see what Jordan Peele has for us.
So, what's your favorite episode on the original series?
That's tough, man. It's really tough. One of the ones that used to stand out to me, I don't remember the title of it, but it's the one where the kids are in an abusive parent situation, and they kind of go into the swimming pool and then come out the other side to like this area where nobody, like everything is happy, everything's positive. And all the while the parents are fighting, not even noticing their kids escaping to this other world area. That one's really good. And the diner one with the alien. Spoiler. What about you?
My favorite one is definitely Time Enough at Last. That's the episode with Burgess Meredith.
All right.
And where he's pretty much like the last man on Earth, and he's getting ready to just commit suicide, but he has such a passion for books, and he finally there's time now. That's the famous line from that episode. There's time now, and as he's getting ready to sit down and start reading a book, he breaks his glasses and he can't read anymore. He can't see.
Yes, I actually have an action figure of that on my shelf.
So that's my favorite episode. I love just the cruel irony behind the episode. I always found it super fascinating. That one and the I don't remember the name of the other episode I'm thinking of, but it's with the I guess it's like a little demonic kid who like controls like all the adults.
Oh, with Ron Howard.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's kid's Ron Howard.
Yeah, and he they have to do whatever this kid says, otherwise this kid just wrecks everything, just ruins everything. Like they have no power. They can't do anything. I always thought that was such a fucking creepy episode, man.
Can you I don't want to stay too far on this topic, but it is insane how many amazing stories Rod Serling was able to pump out. Like the amount of his work and the vastness of it and how quality everything came out. It's astounding to me that it was pretty much a one-man show with a lot of these original, iconic, classic episodes.
Yeah, no, the guy was an amazing writer. He had a hell of a mind, hell of an eye for just creepy and disturbing stories and imagery. Back when this original show aired, and a lot of the stuff still holds up today, and that's what's amazing. So hopefully, some of the episodes that they redo and remake in this new series, they show the proper love, and it works. Can't really say anything until we see them, but here's hoping. The Haunting of Bly Manor, Mike Flanagan's follow-up to The Haunting of Hill House, which I've heard so many good things about. Most of those good things coming from you. I know you are a big fan of Haunting of Hill House.
That I am. I was pleasantly surprised by the series. I was excited for it right off the bat because Mike Flanagan was involved in it. And if you don't know Mike Flanagan, he is the upcoming director of Stephen King's Doctor Sleep, but he also did a little movie called Hush, which is probably one of the most intense movies I've seen in the last decade. There's barely any dialogue in this movie, and it is like he basically put on a show, a sort of mastery example of how to put tension in a movie. You know, like put it into a movie and have it be effective and not come off like, okay, well, this person's going to take 30 minutes to walk over to the window and get a jump scare or not. This was like sitting at the edge of your seat, intensity. And I thought, I thought that film was like beyond words. With that being said, when I heard he got involved in this Netflix television show that had to do with a haunted house, I was like, okay, I'm not really big on ghost stories or anything like that anymore. The Japanese ghost movie craze of the early 2000s kind of really burnt me out. And then the Insidious movies and The Conjuring, they pretty much did me in on most ghost movies for like the next 20 years. So with that being said, I went into this story very cautiously, and I will say that for a guy that's been watching horror movies since he was about 4 or 5 years old, and does like I don't get scared to much of anything anymore, this show on Netflix really was effective. I mean, it wasn't outright scary in terms where I stayed up all night or whatnot, but it has some very, very unnerving stuff in it, and takes traditional ghost stories and adds a new spin while keeping them traditional. Like, I think it was a very, very well done series. And now we're going to be getting a sequel to it, which it seems like they're going to be handling in kind of an anthology sort of way where each season is something different. We're being told that this story is based on a book or novella written by Henry James in 1898 called The Turn of the Screw. I don't know too much about it, to be perfectly honest, but I didn't know much about the Haunting of Hill House, so I'm kind of going into this fresh. And, you know, after last season, I'm very, very excited, and like I know he's going to be able to pull it off. So, like, it's without a doubt going to be a very effective and very great storytelling. I'm, you know, absolutely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm going to eventually catch. You know, I'm gonna binge Haunting of Hill House one day, probably very, very soon. I just gotta, you know, once I get that first episode in, that it'll either hook me to where I'll binge the rest of it in 2 days at work.
As you do.
Yeah. No, I watch a lot of shows at work. I just pop it on my phone. I throw my Bluetooth headphones on. And that way, if I got to get up, I don't have to pause it. I can at least just still listen to it. And I feel, especially with like horror shows and stuff, that the sound, even if you don't see the scene in its entirety, but if you hear it, sometimes the sound just really does put you in the space where I think the show was trying to put you in to begin with. So, you know, it's just a matter. I gotta just sit down one day when I got some free time at work and just pop it on. And if I like that first episode, I'll be done with the series in 2 days.
I will say this, that one of the biggest strong points in the show is the character work. And I think too many ghost movies just let that take the back seat. And when some creepy shit starts happening to them, you're just like, who really cares if they just got jumped out of a door? Let them go. They were kind of annoying anyway. They slammed the door or whatever. I'll yell at the ghost another time. This one, it feels like all of the people within the show are very, you know, they're first and foremost. You know, they are very important structurally. And the real cool thing about how this story is told is it's told in 2 different times. Well, actually, it's told in multiple different time periods, you know, within this family's life. So you're seeing what these people went through as children and what they went through and how things affected them growing up. And it almost has like a Tarantino way of storytelling, not in the sense that, like, you know, it's going to be, you know, a complete ripoff of other movies, but like it has a very unique style and approach to it. So if the first episode doesn't catch you, keep going. That's all I can recommend.
well, you see that's a good thing because you watch a lot of those ghost movies and possession movies and all that bullshit, and the characters are like the least interesting thing about it. It's like most of the time it's like, all right, you know what I want right now in this movie? I want the ghost to possess everybody in this movie and make them walk into traffic because they're almost always awful. They're so generic. And they're just so mundane, and it's like a lot of times just really fucking stupid. I mean, I can't think of too many ghost type and possession type movies, maybe aside from Poltergeist, to where I actually enjoyed the characters on screen. Yeah,
I could definitely say that this has like a Poltergeist sort of vibe as far as the approach goes.
The original Poltergeist, not that remake. Not the remake.
I didn't even see the remake, so I could definitely see where you're coming from. But hey, man, without a doubt, it's the right type of writing for a ghost movie. This is how you should, like, if you're going to go out and make a ghost movie or a ghost story, watch this series first and realize the right ways to do these things. One other cool little tidbit, and then we can move on. Keep your eyes moving on the show, because one fun thing Mike Flanagan did throughout this entire series was there's a lot of hidden ghosts in this show that they're just there. Like maybe they're hanging out in the back room of a scene, like off to the side through a window. They're not part of the scene. They're just always there. And that's fucking creepy. There's no better way to put it. It's very effective storytelling and visually impressive.
Yeah, I read all about that. So it's something I'll be looking forward to. Hopefully I'll be able, as I said, when I'm at work and I'm watching these shows, per episode, I usually get to actually see about 80 to 90% of the episode, because a lot of times I'm getting up and I'm walking around my lab and I'm doing work. But for the most part, I usually have my phone right in front of me while I'm working on something, so I do get to see most of it. So that is something I will keep in mind. So moving on here, we got news it was about a day or so ago about Gremlins receiving an animated prequel series. Variety had dropped that bombshell on us about a day or two ago, and I don't think anybody was expecting that. I mean, there's been talks about, a studio, a theatrical remake of the franchise, but a prequel series that's animated? Like, what? Where did they get that idea from? That kind of just came out of left field. So what this show is going to focus on is the character of Mr. Wing, who is the old Chinese man from the movies who, sells Gizmo to the family. But this would take place while he's a much younger character, but yet he still has Gizmo. And they're apparently just going on adventures together. I'm sure, they're not going to dive too much into the details and plot, because this, I'm sure, I don't even know if this is greenlit yet for all, it may not be. But it makes me wonder, what the fuck is the lifespan of a Mogwai? Like, fuck, that dude was old.
No, yeah, it's a pretty good point. I don't know if I want this. I see somebody in our chat say leave Gremlins alone, and I don't want them. I don't want them to leave Gremlins alone. I don't want a prequel where what's his name again? That old dude goes on adventures with a Mogwai. That seems so weird to me. I want like a little bit darker of a theme sequel. I want to see a sequel with the original actors and actresses. Now I want to see that happen. All these years later. I don't know if I want a Saturday morning cartoon though. I don't want Gremlins and Gizmo vitamins or anything like that.
Yeah, what I want is I want more lore behind the Mogwais. I mean, obviously the only Mogwai we ever get, real, like original Mogwai we ever got, was Gizmo. What about other Mogwais? Where do they come from? You know, there's a bit more lore on these little creatures of doom. I think fans would love that. You know, it's such a beloved series and franchise, and so many people have such fond memories of it, especially the first one. I mean, you know, Gremlins, when we were growing up as kids, Gremlins was always that almost like that entry-level horror movie. It's horror, but it's sort of like a little bit on the black comedy side of horror, so it's kind of like okay for kids, and it's also, you know, a Christmas movie, and so it hits all these notes that makes it a beautiful entry horror movie for a kid. And it was one of the first horror movies I ever saw as a kid. You know, that and The Witches rather, which was fucking terrifying as a kid. But you know, growing up now, it's just like, yeah, they're still good movies. Even the second one. The second one is obviously not as good as the first one. But it has its moments, and you still want to know more about these creatures. You want, you know, again, if Mr. Wing had Gizmo when he was a young man, and has him, you know, into his 70s and 80s, the fuck? Like, do Mogwais just not age? Or are they?
I would go about it differently. Like, I wouldn't even put Gizmo as the main character. Maybe like he had a handful of them, and maybe this is a story of him and another one, and then like kind of end the series, you know, where the original started. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be a smart way to kind of tell the story and introduce Gizmo. That's a good point. Like, what is Gizmo, like 100 years old? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, he's got the fucking lifespan of like you know, like a sea tortoise or something. You know, these fucking turtles that live 150 years.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lot going up. Like, they're smart little creatures, but like, if Gizmo's that old, he doesn't seem like he really learned that much in his lifespan. You know, if he's kind of just like reading little coloring books and loving 3D glasses, and you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not really well traveled.
Yeah, he's seems pretty juvenile for such a wise old furry critter. I don't even know what else to call him, but I think the show has potential. They just need to get the right writer and directors behind it. And
animation style. I think that is absolutely key. I don't want to see any of this like cheap garbage art or art style that they have today for a lot of these kids' cartoons. I know this is probably not going to be kids related. We don't know for sure, but I'm not like a huge animation buff, so I don't know like who would be great, but I would definitely like a more adult sort of theme as far as animation goes. Something that like you and I would appreciate rather than the youth.
Yeah, but the youth buys toys. You got to remember that.
Very, very true. But you could look at some of the past cartoons that we've grown up with, and you could see where they went really off the deep end for, you know, like it being kids related, and then you could see where other series became artful, but kids still fucking ate it up. You know, take like Batman the Animated Series, for example. You know, that was like the design and how everything worked out, and how you know, like they drew their art on black paper in order to really capture that sort of vibe. You know, that was true artistry. Whereas, you know, you watch some random television show now, and you're just like, oh my god, what did they just give kids some crayons and this is what they come up with?
Yeah, well, this is still super, super early into pre-production. You know, as I said, as far as I know, it's not even greenlit. It's just still in talks, but definitely pretty cool for Gremlins fans, and there are plenty of Gremlins fans. So I definitely see this getting fleshed out a bit more in the coming months. So it's just something we'll definitely keep our eyes on, because I'd love to see which direction they go with this particular show.
Yeah, same, man. And, you know, just to add to that, you could pretty much, like, if this comes before any sort of sequel or reboot or anything like that, this might be the little bump in the ass to get other projects off the ground. So I really think this has potential in more ways than just being a good piece of entertainment. So we'll see how.
All right. So I'm going to attempt this name here. Yahya Abdul Mateen II. Who?
Mic drop.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I think you nailed it, man.
Who is right now currently known for playing, I believe he was Black Manta in Aquaman?
Yes, he was.
Well, he is in talks to star in Jordan Peele's Candyman reboot. I obviously I didn't see Aquaman, but I've seen enough footage of his character from the movie, and he kind of has that stern scowl, Tony Todd reminiscent face to him. He looks like the kind of guy who come through a mirror and fuck your day up.
You definitely have a good point. I was actually making an image yesterday for our article on this, and the more I'm like looking at this dude while I'm cutting him out for the image, I'm just like, yeah, he could definitely work. I've not seen Aquaman yet, but I've been hearing nothing but good things out of this guy. He's going to be starring in the upcoming HBO Watchmen series, and his career is taking off quite a bit. So,
who's he playing in Watchmen?
I just closed out of it. I'd have to look.
Kind of curious.
Yeah, I'm bringing it back up.
Maybe playing Rorschach? No.
That would be an interesting piece of casting, that's for sure.
Huh.
Bear with me, my computer's going a little slow.
But I think this is a pretty cool casting choice. A lot of fans wanted Tony Todd to come back, but most fans in the know knew that wasn't going to happen. I would say definitely expect a cameo from Tony Todd, but embrace the fact that this is a reboot of Candyman. You're going to get a new Candyman.
I've been hearing different things about how things are going with this, whether it's going to be a sequel, a spiritual sequel, a reboot. Like, they're calling it different things, so I'm not 100% sure what they're actually.
Yeah, hey, I'm trying to see who he's supposed to be playing in Watchmen.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up, but there's nothing on him.
Yeah, he just says he's in talks.
Looking for article.
Yeah, I'm not seeing like a name drop on which particular character. That's pretty cool. So it seems like Aquaman really opened the door for this guy, and he's picking up some pretty cool roles. And so I would say expect to see this guy's name a lot in the future.
Absolutely, and Tony Todd just yesterday, I believe, gave him his his blessing to go forward with. Said that I'm paraphrasing, but he said that he lived with the character for 25 years, and he's excited to see what the future holds for the character, and wishes the cast and crew the best with it. So I think that was a really nice gesture on his part. I really hope that he has some sort of cameo, even if it's a little bit bigger of a role. That would be cool too. Anything to keep that spirit going, and we talked about Tony Todd endlessly in the past, so it's just one of those things where we want to see more of him. But I'm really glad that this up-and-comer is getting this chance.
Yeah, it's again, if the casting goes through, he gets the role, and the movie is good, it's going to open even more doors for this kid. So, wish him the best of luck, and he's got big shoes to fill. Stepping into Tony Todd. Literally, the guy's fucking huge in real life, but
he really is.
Yeah, he's a fucking monster in real life. So definitely wish him the best of luck, because he'll need it for this. But I don't know. I think he'll pull it off. All right, so we got some fun comic and geek news to cover this week. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. Well, fans everywhere saying snoogans as Jay and Silent Bob reboot begins production. We got a kind of like a photo from the set of Jason Mewes and a much skinnier Silent Bob in costume, ready to start filming. I know you are a massive Kevin Smith and Jay and Silent Bob fan, so you must be just ecstatic with this news and that picture.
We got a few pictures actually. Thankfully, especially for how big of a fan I am. The first one that they kicked off with is a couple set photos, like early set photos, and one with Jason Lee, who plays Brody from Mallrats. Spoilers, Brody will be back in Jay and Silent Bob, we can't talk today, can we? Jay and Silent Bob reboot. They're returning to his comic book shop, and I'm also hearing they're returning to the mall, which I think is really nice after Kevin Smith tried to get Mallrats 2 and eventually Mallrats TV series off the ground. So it seems like they're going to be kind of pulling different elements from the two movies that he had written before Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which were Mallrats 2 and Clerks 3. So we're going to see how things go with that. One thing that I thought was really cool in Brody's comic book shop, Brody's Secret Stash, was that they have a Stan Lee shrine of sorts, which was also the second photo that they posted on day 2 of filming. It shows Stan Lee's glasses and his green sweater, all in a display case. And I think that's really cool because it ties into the Mallrats scene with Stan Lee in it, and a nice tribute as well after his passing. So you can't make a Jay and Bob movie without some sort of reference to comics, or at the very most, or Stan Lee being actually in it. On today, I think today's photo, they released their outside filming at the Quick Stop with Dante from Clerks. So we're going to see at the very least Dante back. No word on Jeff Anderson's Randall, because
that's all I want. I want Randall. Fuck everybody else. I'll even take a little Elias, but I won't hold my breath on that one. But I want me some Randall.
Yeah, Randall's one of the best characters. There's a bit of behind the scenes crap with the Weinstein Company not really holding up their end regarding back end pay for Jeff Anderson. So I don't know whether or not he's going to be back for this. I don't really know the details. All I know is that there was one holdout for Clerks 3 to get greenlit, and that was one of the unnamed actors. Brian O'Halloran is going to be in Jay and Silent Bob reboot, so we know that Jeff Anderson was that holdout, so we don't know for sure if he'll be back for a cameo or whatnot. I really hope he will be, though. And then one other cool small thing was they are releasing the Road to Reboot series on YouTube. They're little videos, set production videos on this film where they kind of walk you through the process. Today's video that they released was a tech scout. It's kind of boring, but it was cool to see, Kevin Smith still alive and kicking, and Jay also still alive and kicking too for different reasons. And they're out there doing it. It's becoming a reality. I think they're 3 days into filming now. So it's exciting. I'm really, really excited to see it go, start kicking off and all that. I really wanted to go be an extra, but they're filming in New Orleans, and that's a little pricey. So if anybody out there has the capital to fly me there and back, I'll go be an extra. So make that happen. Or if Kevin, if you're listening, hook me up, brother. But no, that would have been really cool. But the fact that we're getting another Jay and Bob movie altogether is that's my shit right there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I liked the Jay and Silent Bob characters. I always felt they worked better as supporting characters to a more stable cast, I guess you could say. I liked them. I liked the way that they were utilized in Mallrats, and I love the way they were utilized in Clerks 2 and in Dogma. Silent Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I don't know. The movie just didn't really connect with me. It just seemed sort of just like a little too over the top. And I know there are parts of Dogma that are over the top, and there are definitely parts of Mallrats that are over the top. But it feels appropriate when the entire movie is like that, which was what I felt Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was. It just kind of, just really took me out of it. So hopefully they can kind of correct that, and that's corrected in this particular movie and script. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's what Kevin Smith goes for with these Jay and Silent Bob movies. But I'll definitely give it a shot, just because I'm hoping to see characters from other movies of his that I like, since all these movies take place in the same universe. So
yeah, it should definitely be fun. As always, it's great to see the characters come back, especially after this long. Clerks 2 was a hell of a movie, and it really shows the maturity level, also immaturity level of Kevin Smith are in the perfect spots for these films. I just love the concept of Jay and Silent Bob reboot, the fact that there is going to be a remake of Blunt Man and Chronic, and they're gonna do the same stupid shit again. It is so what's the word? I can't even think of it. It's just like meme level. You know what I mean? It is very self-aware, and I appreciate that.
Yep. So since now the movie is in production, we're going to be getting updates constantly. So Kevin Smith fans, get your chubby in order, because the movie will be upon us before you know it. All right. So the Oscars were this past weekend. Yay, Oscars. Basically, the Oscars to me is a night where nobody is happy on the internet.
You ain't lying, man.
Oh my God! It doesn't matter who wins. Everybody is mad. So let's not embrace all the anger and hate that went into the Oscars this year, like it does every year. Let's look at some of the good things that came out of the Oscars this year. One being a quick but touching in memoriam to Stan Lee, and also James Cameron. I don't know if you noticed, but they used a screenshot of James Cameron's character from Return of the Living Dead in memoriam.
I did. In fact, that was in our original show notes, but I took it off because I wanted to be the guy to say that little tidbit. But you beat me to it.
So, that was pretty cool. Plus, all the other amazing people that we lost this year from film and cinema history, The In Memoriam is definitely one of the classier sides to the Oscars that you can really expect to deliver every year, and it typically does. We wish it didn't have to deliver every year, because we wish these people could live forever, but they can't. So seeing them remembered this way on such a massive stage it's comforting for fans.
And seeing them remembered with a scene from Return of the Living Dead, that's just any fan's dream, especially the two of us.
But, the tribute to Stan Lee wasn't the only thing Marvel-related on Oscars nights. There was a little movie this year called Black Panther, and it pretty much La La Land the Oscars this year. It's been a long time coming. Something that a lot of Marvel fans never really thought was going to happen, because these aren't Oscar-worthy movies for the most point. But Black Panther, for original score, best production design, and best costumes design, took home Oscars. 3 Oscars. So the MCU went from having no Oscars to 3 in 1 year. That is a massive accomplishment for everybody involved on the Black Panther team.
Yeah, no, I can't say anything that you haven't already said. Just seeing a victory, you know what I'm saying? Like it always feels like Marvel movies get the pity nomination, and I hate to say it that way because the things that they're nominated for are just as important as Best Picture, Best Writer, Best Screenplay, or whatever. You know, those things are very, very staple in telling that story, just in the same sense that a writer is. But the awards, they never seem to go for, you know, the bigger picture sort of awards, the more prestigious ones at these ceremonies. And usually movies on the Marvel Cinematic Universe aren't even given, you know, the light of day when it comes to, you know, an actual win. But to see Black Panther, which I feel is really deserving of not only the nominations, but also victories, to see it come away with 3 Oscars in one night, you can't ask for better at this point.
And if that wasn't good enough for Marvel fans, ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, we now live in a world where we can say Spider-Man is an Oscar winner. And that feels pretty good.
Not only Spider-Man, but a Miles Morales-driven Spider-Man film. Like, I didn't think people would react well to the comic book when it was first introduced. And it had its detractors and real irrational types of people that we're not going to get into. But to see a film that is released with where Peter Parker takes the backseat to a Miles Morales centric film with a bunch of great supporting characters on top of Peter Parker himself, and see it go and win Best Animated Feature, it's I don't know, like, wake me up. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, so now the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse now joins the ranks of Big Hero 6, who won this Oscar a couple years back, a movie that I am very, very fond of. So that is awesome. Very awesome. Very, the guys, you know, that team needs to be extremely proud, and the movie was certainly super deserving. I can't say enough awesome things about how this year went for Marvel in terms of awards and stuff. So let's hope, Avengers Infinity War didn't win anything. They were only nominated for one category. They didn't win, which was a little upsetting. I thought the movie was a visual marvel. No pun intended. But, with Avengers Endgame less than 2 months out, less. We just hit 2 months. I think like yesterday. There is definitely room maybe for improvement, and if this movie looks half as good as Infinity War, we could definitely see this one back in the nominee column for next year's Oscars.
I couldn't agree more. I don't think Marvel needs to improve. I think the Academy needs to improve and start to change with the times. And every year passing, as much as people like to cry and point foul and say, this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed, and rightfully so. There is progression in the Academy Awards. It may be slow, but it is slowly but surely evolving. So I think before long, films like Avengers Infinity War will be recognized appropriately. And it might not be this year, it might not be next year, it might not be till the third phase or whatever phase of the next, cinematic universe. But things are moving along, and we are going to be in a world where films like this could go ahead and take on the big awards. Spider-Man entered into the Spider-Verse, did it this year, and that speaks volumes. So we'll just have to keep on progressing, and that's the only way we got to do. We got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. I've said this multiple times, but I stopped getting mad at what gets nominated and who wins. Couple years ago, I've seen way too many well-deserving films get completely snubbed at the Academy Awards, and it was upsetting me, like hard upsetting me. The one year it was The Witch. The fact that The Witch didn't get any nods really put a just sour taste in my mouth. And then it was either the following year or the year after with Taika Waititi's Hunt for the Wilder People that didn't even get a nod. And it's like one of the best reviewed movies of all time on Rotten Tomatoes, and nothing. So after that snub, I stopped getting mad at what the Academy does, because the Academy is gonna do whatever the fuck the Academy is gonna do. Films like La La Land are always gonna come along every year, and they're made these are movies made just for the fucking Oscars. So. When you accept that, when award season comes, it makes it a lot easier. Trust me. Don't let this shit fucking affect you like it used to affect me. So much easier just to be like, oh yeah, well, could have told you that movie wasn't being nominated, so it helps.
Agreed, man. I always go into it with a glass half full perspective at this.
So last up is we got a bit of news regarding Marvel's future slate and what is coming after, obviously Endgame, and then we do have one movie after Endgame, and that is Spider-Man Far From Home, but we do not know what is coming after that, and we will not know until the movie is released. This has been apparently confirmed. Was it Fahey who said it?
Yeah, I believe so. They are basically keeping things very close to the chest when it comes to this, and I have a feeling that has to do with major spoilers that are going to be taking place in Endgame, and as a result of Endgame, which kind of seems pretty obvious that they wouldn't be announcing any sort of slate of films until Spider-Man Far From Home. I have a feeling that once we watch Endgame, we're going to be in a situation where we're going to kind of have a general idea of where things are heading, but not 100% until, this particular phase rounds out.
Well, I think it also plays into a little some other news that we got with the Disney streaming service with their Marvel shows. Apparently, those are going to be taking place in all different eras of the MCU, whether it be the past, present, or future. So I'm thinking until they have those shows hammered down, which could include potential spoilers for future movies, future events, future heroes, future villains, all that good stuff. I think they kind of want to release it all at the same time so fans know exactly what to expect. They want to release the movie slate and possibly the show slate all around the same time.
And it's smart, because they could set up their pawns and really lay out the red carpet, for what's about to happen this year and what's to come.
Yeah, and that news also said they're going to really be working on all kind of different genres. Hopefully that's true, and hopefully they, because certain characters work better in certain atmospheres and genres, like the Marvel Netflix shows. Yeah, that set its characters in the perfect positions, and hopefully, there's already been rumblings of some, more adult-oriented shows possibly coming to this Disney streaming channel, in terms of Marvel characters. So we could see a pretty dark, maybe, maybe not quite rated R, but super, really hard PG-13s version of maybe like Ghost Rider or something. We could see this on a Disney streaming channel. And honestly, it would only be good business because that just means, for all those adults who don't have kids, where a Disney streaming service would get the most benefit from, if they're releasing more adult themed, Marvel shows, well, those adults who don't have kids, they're going to subscribe. That's tapping a very large market of individuals. So, that's what you want to do with these kind of shows and movies. You want to be able to hit all targets. Kids, teens, adults. Don't focus on one, because you don't have to anymore. We don't live in that kind of world anymore. It's everybody can get what they want. As long as the people behind it are willing to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart move to go forward in like, if you want to be considered competition to the Netflixes and the Hulus out there, because if you just brand yourself as a Disney company, a Disney streaming service, you've already kind of put yourself in the corner of what Disney actually is. When you think of Disney, you immediately go to those animated movies you grew up with, or those storybook characters. You don't think Marvel. You're starting to, because that's the world we're living in. But you don't think Marvel. You don't think Star Wars. You think kids programming. And I think in doing this and playing with genres and pushing that PG-13 rating a little bit, you're going to be opening up a world of possibility, and also start to begin rebranding what Disney is. And I think that's smart going forward, because we're adults now. A lot of us grew up on Disney.
Well, I mean, that's fucking debatable.
Hey, I'm sitting here playing with my turtle, but we're big kids now. Is that better?
God, it sounds like a pull-up ad.
I know. But like, we are a generation that moved forward. We grew up on the product. We understand what the product is, and now they want to capture our imagination still just as much as they want to capture the youth. And I think it would be really smart to kind of start pushing in a slightly different direction while remaining strong on the other fronts. So, I mean, it's smart business to move forward in this way. And the Marvel movies always worked, where they had a character, a story, and then they took it and put it into a genre. Like they were calling Ant-Man a heist movie. And there are definite heist elements in that film. And it feels like it's a movie like we've seen before. We've seen this kind of setup in a more serious movie, but in this particular case, it's fucking Ant-Man. So that's always worked well in the film. So why not use that sort of tactic and apply it to the television series that are on the way?
Yeah, I mean, and they could even just dip their toes into the water. Just pick one character and just do a pilot, see how it goes, see how fans react. You don't have to go balls deep. They can even do one season of a character that's more adult oriented on the service. And what's the worst that's gonna happen? Fans aren't gonna dig it. They're not gonna subscribe and watch it. Is Marvel gonna lose money? No. Marvel is and Disney is in a position where they can take chances. They can take many, 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 many chances and really not come out looking bad or worse for wear or in the red in anything. They have disposable funds. They have that kind of capital where they can take a show. They can try to make a Ghost Rider show, or I don't know who would be another dark character.
Blade.
Yeah, a Blade show, fucking vampires. Fucking that's it. That's what you do. Fucking Blade. You got dude with a sword and vampires, and dude with sword killing vampires. Fucking, who's not going to watch that? Seriously.
I'm putting this out there, man. I know we have a couple of years before those Defenders come back to Marvel properly. I say Feig and whoever else is involved in this, the Marvel television, start working on a Blade series, and then that's how you bring in the Defenders back to the universe. That's what I would do at least. I've been sitting here while we're talking about TV shows. I'm just like, I want a Blade show. This is a good way to bring back the characters from Netflix too. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, and while you're at it, just bring back Wesley Snipes. Just make everybody happy. He can do it. He wants to do it. We want him to do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. We want Snipes back. So
was he a legitimate vampire? Dude doesn't look like he aged since the first movie.
I don't get some of these people, man. They just I don't know where they find this fucking fountain of youth, but they need to throw it our way because we're gonna start looking like haggard old men in a couple of years. I could just feel it.
I'm already there, my friend.
All right, so before we go ahead and wrap up tonight, next week, believe it or not, fucking next week is Monster Mania. Did you realize that?
That's next week. Holy crap.
So we are still planning on going. I'm still working on getting a room. You also need to get your ass on the phone 1 or 2 times a day as well.
Yes.
We've already talked about that off stream. So we still need to get a room. I do have this weird feeling in the back, in the pit of my stomach that our mutual friend Twisted Tea has a room that he's not telling us about.
I'm suspicious. We'll see. He hasn't really brought anything up, but we'll definitely find out.
Yeah, well, this is the asshole who didn't bring anything up. The year where I told him if he was going to go, he needed to stop by my house and grab something in my garage so he could get it signed for me. And then he decided, that night, he was just going to surprise everybody and tell us that he's already down there. So
yeah.
So I trust nothing that comes out of his mouth. So I have a feeling that he has a room and he's just waiting to spring it on us to be like the hero, because this is like the first year that we are planning on going, but I don't have a room. But it is very known to most fans of this convention that the days leading up to Monster Mania, people cancel. So rooms open up last minute. So that is our hope, that we can grab a room last minute and enjoy it. Because there's 1 or 2 people I want to meet. I know there's a couple people you want to meet, and we want to get some stuff done. For the website, maybe some content for the channels. We have shit we want to get done. So going is really a top priority, and going for a day is great, but when you don't have a hotel room to kind of base your operations out of and store your beer, that is really, really important. Storing of beer and rum, it kind of just falls apart and it doesn't feel the same. Yeah, the show is great, the vendors are great, the guests are great, the panels are great, all that stuff, fun. But when you can't just be like, I want to go upstairs and kind of get drunk and then come back down here. You can't do that when you don't have a room. So, pray for us. Hopefully we can get this room. And if we do, we might be able to bring you guys some cool stuff. I will definitely do like live streams like I did last time there. Those really seem to help my personal channel grow. I got a lot of new subscribers and from that particular show that year. So, I'm hoping for the best, guys. So that is going to go ahead and wrap it up for us this week. Actually went a little longer than I thought we were going to, but we actually were hitting on some cool notes on some of this news, so it was actually a lot of fun. Yeah, so make sure you follow both of us over on Twitter, Bates_MotelMT, at Ray Mungus. Make sure you follow the Dead Entertainment at Dead End Site. You can also like us over on Facebook, facebook.com/Dead Entertainment. And make sure you check out the site, deadentertainment.com. All your horror news and, lots of original pieces and lots of talented writers putting out stuff daily over there. I still really need to work on a new big editorial piece. I have something in mind. I just haven't been able to start putting it down on paper yet to flesh it out to see if it's, viable to do. But hopefully pretty soon I can get that rolling. You got anything over on your end?
Not really. There might be something cool coming out for the website, maybe within a week or so. I don't have the guy's name in front of me because my chat app just crashed on me, and everything else is crashing on my computer around me. But we might be doing an interview again with a pretty decently known actor. So we will see how that goes. We got to dot some I's and cross some T's and take it from there.
Cool. I see. I didn't even know about that. Look at that. All right, that's pretty cool news. So, maybe that'll happen. So keep an eye on that, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I happen to notice we had quite a bit of listeners earlier into like a good bulk of the show. So that's definitely awesome. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, hit that bell every Wednesday. Well, most Wednesday nights. Occasionally we do need a break. Because doing weekly podcasts is actually a little harder than it sounds. So
yeah, it definitely has a lot of effort put into it, and on a rougher week, you're just like dragging yourself to the computer to make it happen. And usually, the cure for that is doing the podcast.
It really is. Listen, I can't tell you how many times both of us will be like, well, I know we'll wake up Wednesday morning, and it's like Wednesday afternoon, and we're just like, fuck. We have to do this shit tonight. I don't want to fucking do this shit. And then we'll come home and we'll fucking, I usually go lay down after I make dinner, and it's like 7 o'clock, and I'm starting to wake up because I know I got to come down here and get ready. I'm just like, I fucking hate this podcast. And I'm dragging, and I'm groggy, and I just want to stab something, and then, fucking the Munsters theme hits, and I'm like, all right, let's do this shit. Fucking bring it on. So it's a weird love-hate relationship, but where we're going strong. 53 episodes in. I still can't believe that. That's awesome. Plus, what are we on? Episode 11 of the live commentary series.
Yeah, no, we've thrown down the last year and a half, few months. Yeah, about a year and a couple months. We did some good shit. I think it's pat on the back worthy.
So and we're not slowing down anytime soon, guys. So thank you so much for your continued support. Again, if you guys have any friends that are into horror, that are into geek shit, into comic shit, into that sci-fi shit, we talk about it all here. So make sure you send the podcast and the Dead Entertainment YouTube channel their way, and the site. They'll if they like that kind of stuff, we're all about that stuff, and I don't know, I think we do a pretty good job. So thank you, guys. We will see you all next week before Monster Mania. And remember,
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.